What's up, YouTube? This is BXBomber718 back at you with another review. And this review is for the Maingear Vector Pro 2. This is the second generation Vector Pro device. It's a 17-inch model. The model number is the MG-VCP2-17A3070T. Okay. And according to the specifications on the box, it has a 17.3-inch Quad HD LED backlit LCD panel, a 240 Hz refresh rate, an AMD Ryzen 9 6900HX processor, 32 gigabytes of DDR5, 4800 megahertz SODIMM RAM, the Nvidia GeForce RTX 3070 Ti, 1 terabyte of NVMe M.2 Gen 4 SSD, Windows 11 Pro pre-installed, Intel Wi-Fi 6, the AX200 model that has Bluetooth 5.2, a 6-cell 7900 mAh, which equates to 91.24 watt-hour battery, 230 watts AC adapter, a full HD infrared webcam with Windows Hello support. It has HDMI 2.1 out on here, a micro SD card slot, and a 2.5 gigabit RJ45 Ethernet port. Okay, so I got this laptop because I wanted to play around with it. I want to see if I would like it. What I'm looking for right now, in the market for right now, is a 16 to 17.3 inch laptop that I can use as a desktop replacement or a mobile workstation when I'm out of town, because that's just what I'm into at the moment. You guys have seen where I tested the Lenovo Legion Slim 7, which I thought was a great device. The Achilles heel was that creaky hinge on the left side. This, on the other hand, I would say does not have a creaky hinge, okay? I'm going to get into some of the cons, some of the pros of this device, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and whether I'm going to keep it or not, all right? And this is going to be a little different. As you can see, I have Battlefield, the movie, quote-unquote, playing from YouTube. And this is playing on 2K because it's the 2K Quad HD display. But I'm going to go over some of the things so that you guys can kind of get a gist of this device and just, get some insight on it, all right? Now, personally, I really like the device. However, there is an Achilles heel, and because of that Achilles heel, I have reconsidered keeping it. But let's get into it, right? First and foremost, this has the AMD Ryzen 9 6900HX processor. This is a phenomenal CPU. It did excellent in the benchmarks, which I'm going to get to later, so I have no qualms with that. It has 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, which is great. However, the RAM did overheat when I was playing games. And the RAM is right underneath the top of the touchpad and the trackpad and right below the space key. So it heats up crazy in that region. It's a hot spot in that region while you're gaming. And I saw temps above 80 degrees, which was ridiculous. 80 degrees Celsius, which was ridiculous, right? But just keep that in mind. But otherwise, the RAM didn't throttle. There was no other issues. I was just very concerned that it was that hot. And I can imagine why, because of how thin the actual device is. By the way, this is a 5.07 pound device, right? And it's very thin, and because of the weight, it's light. The SSD worked great. The SSD in the Lenovo Legion Slim 7 operated a little bit better, but this SSD is blazing fast, as Gen 4 speed, so I like that. The GPU in here is the Nvidia GeForce RTX 3070 Ti, 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM. Great GPU, didn't have any issues with it. I'm gonna get into the temps in a moment, but I thought it was a great, gave me great video editing, capabilities, great gaming capabilities. And again, I'll get into the temperature and everything like that. So I thought that was great. The Wi-Fi adapter in here is an Intel AX200. Excellent speeds in regards to throughput. Was phenomenal, right? It didn't drop a connection the whole time I used it. I'm all the way upstairs in my house, so communicating with my router sometimes can be challenging where I'm at, but this had no problem flying. And when I was downloading things, it was downloading from 20 megabytes per second on upward. right? So great Wi-Fi adapter. The LAN port, 2.5 gigabit on the LAN port. I was unable to saturate it, so I cannot speak to that. However, I do get 1.2 gigabits per second bandwidth in regards to my modem or my gateway device, and it was able to fully saturate or pull in the amount of data coming through, so there was no issues with that. All right, the keyboard, I mentioned this in unboxing. The keyboard, the depth of travel is very shallow. However, the keycaps feel great. They're wide, they're clicky. And even though I'm a stickler for depth in regards to key travel, I got used to it, and getting used to it because it was just, the keys are wide and it's clicky. So it has a great tactile feel. But when you're pressing it, it bottoms out really fast and it's very shallow, right? But I did get used to it. So that wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. It'd just be something that I'm like, I wish this was better, but it's not a deal breaker, right? Because I can actually get used to it, all right? Now, also, there is an overdrive button here at the top next to the power button, and I'll zoom into the keyboard in a moment. However, this gives you 3 presets, which is quiet, gaming, and turbo, okay? Quiet keeps the device quiet, like it says, clocks everything down, minimal voltage going through. Gaming is like a balance mode that adjusts to whatever you're doing with the PC. And turbo just throttles everything up. It allows the temp to go much higher than I'm comfortable with. So I personally day-to-day, if I was to keep this, would not use the turbo mode, right? Because even if you're doing something that's high performance or HPC, high performance computing, the gaming mode handles that with no problem, similar to the turbo, just without the high temps, okay? So that's a little bit of insight in regards to that. Now the trackpad is excellent. As you can see, I kept all the plastic still on it. I had some resistance because there's some plastic over the trackpad, and that's fine because even with that, I was able to navigate with it with no problem. I can only imagine if I remove this plastic to kind of see, how much better it would be. But so far, even with something blocking me from actually directly touching it, it still worked phenomenal, right? So nice and spacious trackpad, very responsive, no complaints about that, all right? Now the battery on here is a 91 watt hour battery. And again, you can get phenomenal battery life. You do have to put the device in quiet mode. You also have to drop the refresh rate down to 60 hertz. You got to turn off the backlight on the keyboard. And if you do these 3 things and make sure that this is in hybrid mode in regards to Optimus and you don't have the muck switch on, because this does have a muck switch. If you do all those things, you can get out of this device at least 8 hours, right? I would say anywhere from 6 to 8 hours with low computing tasks. Also, the brightness should be under 50%. I had the brightness at 35%, and I was able to get 6 to 8 hours, right? Doing light productivity tasks, some YouTube viewing like we have right now, etc. So this has excellent battery life. If you tune it appropriately, you can get up to 8 hours. I wouldn't say that's guaranteed. I was seeing more along the lines of 6 hours, but you can get up to 8 hours. So this is the phenomenal battery that they put in here. So I definitely got to give credit for that. Now this webcam at the top is a full HD 1080p webcam with infrared. So it supports Windows Hello. Windows Hello works excellent. However, the quality of this camera is below average. I mean, only in a quick pinch would I actually even use it for anything. Other than that, I would not deal with that camera. Just me. I wouldn't deal with the camera. I would get an external camera and use that. This will only be in a quick pinch. But the Windows Hello as a biometric reading is very, I would say, spiffy. It works very quickly, right, to unlock, all right? The chassis itself feels like it's plastic. I'm unable to confirm that. I could just tell by handling it. It does feel like it's like a hard plastic, like an ABS type of plastic, something like that. It's a hard plastic. It's very rigid. I like it a lot. No really complaints in regards to that. There's not a lot of flex anywhere, right? The only flex that I was able to see was in the screen. The screen does have some flex. And moving on to the display itself is great, very crisp. The color gamut is very wide from what I determined. I believe from my testing, I was able to get up to 80% in DCI-P3. The sRGB, I think, is around the same, if I'm not mistaken, from a little bit of testing that I did. I did not do thorough testing on it, so forgive me for that. But the colors look very accurate. You also do have different profiles in the Maingear node application, which I'll get into shortly, that you can adjust that on, or you could just use the Nvidia GeForce experience or the GeForce control panel, and you can make adjustments through there, right? Not the experience. Experience is something a little different, right? But the display is great. It is wobbly, okay? So it will wobble. It does pass the one finger open test, okay? But it does wobble, so just keep that in mind. It does wobble. When you type, it wobbles. It's not HP Victus bad, right? But it does wobble while you're using it, right? So just keep that in mind. My preference would be just to keep it on a flat surface while you're using it. You minimize the wobble, but there is some wobble there, okay? Now, with that being said, let's get into the cooling temps and power. Now, I'm going to tell you what I don't like about this and why I wouldn't keep it. And I'm going to tell you that this may not be a deal breaker for you, but it is for me. The issue is the fans. Now, I don't know if they got a ballpoint bearing fans in here. I don't know what kind of fans is in here. I know that they're very thin and they're probably very small. However, when you are doing light computing tasks on here, right? You're not doing nothing heavy, right? You're not running no benchmarks, no gaming, no heavy video editing or any CAD work, anything like that. You'll hear this high-pitched whirring sound that's coming from the fans. It is not loud, but it's on a frequency that bores through your head. I mean, it is annoying. Now, if you have ambient sounds, because I've tested it with ambient sounds, you don't notice it at all. If you have headphones on, right, that has good, I would say, sound isolation, you definitely won't hear it. If you're playing music or whatever, you won't hear it. But if you're like me, where most of the time when I'm using it is in a very quiet environment, you will hear it. Now, I'm going to be quiet. I don't know if the camera's going to catch it, but just listen. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's there. I prefer the fans to speed up because when the fans speed up, that sound is not there. But when the fans are not speeding up and they're on low profile like this, it is annoying. I can hear it across the room. It is very annoying and I can't deal with that. But if you're typically using a laptop with headphones on or you have some ambient sounds or whatever, like in a coffee shop, something like that, it would definitely not bother you. But for me, it bothered me. Now, in regards to temps, now I've seen the temps for the GPU max out at 86 degrees Celsius. And I've seen it with the CPU go all the way up to 93 degrees Celsius, but that's only when I had it in turbo mode. When it's not in turbo mode, when it's in gaming mode, which is the balanced optimal mode, the highest that it went up was 88 degrees. In gaming, the GPU, when you have everything native resolution on high or ultra, I played God of War on here, I play Halo Infinite on here, Spider-Man Remastered, what else? Halo Wars 2, etc. So when you play games on here, and you do like me, you have the QHD screen, you use native resolution, put everything on high, even ultra. I did not put ray tracing on, but you get excellent gameplay performance. However, the CPU does get up to 80 degrees Celsius, and the GPU is always at 86 degrees Celsius with anywhere from 92 to 99% utilization, right? And the CPU, I've seen it get up to about 45-50% utilization playing some games, right? More particularly when I played real-time strategy games, okay? So I just want to give that in mind. Now, in regards to the max temp that I've seen, the max wattage that I've seen go through the GPU, I ran Furmark stress test, and I've seen the GPU get up to 155 watts, okay? I did a stress test on the CPU, and I saw that go up to about 46 watts. 46 watts. I think it's tinkering around 50 watts, but 46 watts. And that's what I've seen in regards to power. So I definitely want to give you an update on that, okay? Now, with that said, According to HW Monitor, an app that I typically run to kind of give me an idea of temps and speeds and everything like that, it did say that the GPU while I was gaming did hit a thermal wall and a power wall as well as a speed wall. So it did throttle. I noticed it when I was playing an online game, which was Halo Infinite, that there was some throttling. I could tell at small moments of time that the game slowed down and sped up. So it does rebound. Once it throttles, it tries to rebound and gets throttled again. However, it did not affect the accuracy of me gaming, where I was still able to game and get top scores, etc. But it does happen, so just keep that in mind. The good news is the software allows you to tinker with the fan curve, which I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out there, right? This also has a muck switch I'm about to show you in a second, which I think is excellent. It gave me at least 7 more frames per second in every game without having to send it to the integrated AMD and for that to output the render that comes from the GPU. And it also has Samsung RAM and Samsung SSD. So they do put quality components in there. So I do got to give Maingear and whoever they're getting this from, right? Whoever they're outsourcing this from, props for putting quality components in here, right? So I definitely got to give that to them, okay? So let's get into the software, and then once we go from there, I'm going to get into the conclusions, maybe show you the device around the device a little bit, zone in on the keyboard. It has a 4-zone RGB keyboard, so just keep that in mind as well, which I think is cool, but I don't really care about RGB on the keyboard. It does also have a light bar over here in the front that you can also tweak within the software. Also, you can double tap at the top left of the trackpad and you can turn the trackpad off. So that was cool as well. But another thing that I like about it is that it is all black. It's like a stealth black with like a soft touch surface and on the lid. And I just like that. I like gaming laptops that have an unassuming stealthy look. But if you wanted to, you could like turn the RGB on the keyboard or have some kind of light bar somewhere. But I don't like it to stand out like that. That's why I like the X13, the Asus ROG Flow X13, because it is very muted, but under the hood, it can game, right? Same thing with this. This is very muted, the type of look that I definitely would go for, and you can game, right? And you can do any kind of high performance computing on this thing. It handled everything I threw at it. Just with some games, it felt like there was some noticeable throttle, but again, it does not hinder gameplay, right? All right, so let's get into the Node app, which is the Maingear app that they place on here that allow you to customize a lot of the various features and hardware and stuff like that. I'll go into that with you right now. All right, so we're here in the Node Control Center, right? And this is the custom Maingear software that allows you to tweak some of the things on the device. And I really do like this Control Center. It's a very lightweight app. It doesn't lock up, freeze up, doesn't give me any issues or problems. So very good application. I can't say the same for things like AWCC or MSI Center or anything like that, but this is very, very fluid and very lightweight, all right? On the general settings, you have the quick switch, so you can turn on and off, toggle on and off the Windows key lock. You can turn off OSD, on-screen display, numpad lock, FN key lock, touchpad toggle, hibernation, USB, and you can enable AC recovery, automatically boot the device after plugging the charger in, okay? Also, Windows devices, you can switch off the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, webcam, or touchpad, or switch it on. You can also control screen brightness through here. As you can see, currently I have it on 55%. And this here, DGPU function, is where you can turn on or off the muck switch. Right now I have the muck switch on, so the Nvidia GPU is rendering and outputting the graphics to the display. All right, you can also change the refresh rate here as well, or you could do automatic refresh rate, which will adjust anywhere from 60 to 240, depending on the usage. All right. Now, on the performance, you can select different modes, create your own profiles, right? So it has 3 standard modes: Office, Game, and Turbo. And then underneath here, you have 5 different profiles that you can adjust yourself. Also, on the Turbo mode, you can enable fan boost if you want as well. Fan settings, you can over here, you can change the fan curve. And I did a slight adjustment over here around the 50%. but you can change the fan curves, which I think is great. SPC settings right here. You can go in and enable performance options and tweak around with overclocking. You can enable the TJ Max temps, and you can do a whole bunch of other fun stuff in here with that, right? And then you have performance profiles binding, where you can add customization, and then you can create little templates for your performance profiles, okay? Also battery, and I'm gonna tell you, I really like this, right? This battery status mode, I think, is extremely helpful. So you have 3 options: high capacity, balance mode, and stationary. High capacity, as you can see, more suitable for long-term battery use in the environment. So if you plan on using this unplugged or untethered from the wall, this right here will give you the best bang for your buck, right? You get the most long-term battery usage. And this is really what I use to get that 6 to 8 hours, right? Up to 8 hours worth of battery. However, there's a balance mode, and the balance mode actually detects whether you're using it more tethered or untethered, and it makes the adjustments, and it says it's more suitable for sometimes using laptop working, but no need to rely on battery power for a long time, because at some point you're going to plug it in, right? So it's like a hybrid. You're going to use it unplugged, and then at some point you're going to plug it in. Stationary mode is more suitable for working with adapter and no need to carry out your laptop. Highly recommended for this mode to extend the battery life. Obviously, this was originally in Chinese and they're trying to translate it. But long story short, if you use this tethered for the most part, you want to use stationary mode. What I think it does, and I can't confirm this, is that it allows the battery to charge maybe up to 60%. And then what happens is it disconnects from charging the battery and it just powers the device, right? So that way it extends your battery life because it's not constantly charging the battery, and it prevents the battery from hitting 100% charged, right? And I think balance does anywhere from 60 to 80%, I think, as well. But high capacity gives you that 100% because you're using untethered for the most part, so it's giving you that. I think this is extremely helpful when I am stationary, which this device, I would be mostly stationary, and at times I would switch to being untethered. And what I would do is just switch between high capacity and stationary, right? Or you could just be on balance and don't worry about that at all. But I think this is awesome to have that, and I would love to see more manufacturers implement that, all right? Battery status, it tells you the current power, the remaining battery time that you have when it's untethered, etc., right? Okay, so display settings, display functions, you can add a color enhancement. For me, I like using the low blue mode because it shifts everything over to a warmer profile, which is easier on the eyes. You can adjust the brightness, color temperature, contrast, gamma, red, green, and blue on here. You can also do color calibration, right? Color management. Use calibration button to associate the calibrated color profile into the color system. After installing the profile successfully, the setting display color profile list will select the profile name. All right, so here you can work on calibrating it and associating a calibration profile to the color system that you designate. Okay, really, really good stuff. All right, light settings. This right here is tells you the amount of time before the keyboard times out, and if it's not used within 30 seconds, it turns off. So here you go right here. Actually, I think this is for everything. This is for the light bar and the keyboard. This is just for the keyboard backlight itself, which you can turn it on and off. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. So this right here controls the the keyboard and the light strip in the front. I put it on 30 seconds. So after 30 seconds of not interacting with the keyboard, the light goes off to save battery. You can also adjust here the keyboard. You can go to different, cycle modes. You have color, you have breathing, you have wave, you have rainbow, etc. Also, you can adjust the brightness, and you can adjust the speed of how fast it goes through the cycles, right? Also, you have the light bar option here, which is on the front. You can do the same thing with that, all right? And then you can adjust the color right here, okay? All right, and next is device information. So here it gives you the system information, all right? It gives you an about option and system monitor, which looks like the processor usage and temps, the GPU usage and temps, the memory percentage, the SSD temp, and the fan speed, right? So that's great there as well, all right? And that's it for the Maingear node application control center. All right, next up are the benchmarks, okay? All right, so for Cinebench R23, the CPU multi-core score is 13,552 points. The CPU single core score is 1,530 points, all right? The multiplier ratio is 8.86, okay? All right. The CPU Z benchmark or CPU benchmark score for the single thread is 627.4, and for the multi-core thread is 6,339.7. All right. This is Furmark. So the Furmark score is 9,653 points. All right, netting in about 161 frames per second on average. And the max temp during that performance benchmark was 79 degrees Celsius. All right. The pass marks rating is 7,386.1. It's in the 85th percentile. The CPU mark score is 26,030.2. The 2D graphics mark is 910.7. The 3D graphics mark is 21,146.5. The memory mark score is 2,875.5. And the disk mark score is 33,359.3. All right, and that's it for the performance benchmark testing. All right, and I want to give you a look at the keyboard. This is the Forge Zone RGB keyboard at work. Here's red, green, blue, and purple. Okay, right here is the expansive trackpad. Again, I like the keys. They're very clicky, very wide, very comfortable to type on. It's just that the depth is very shallow, and that is a compromise you make when dealing with something with such a thin chassis. Okay, at the top here, this is your turbo button. All right, that a profile button that goes from quiet, gaming, and turbo. And here's your power button that has a light on here as well, indicating the status of the power. When it's in sleep mode, it'll look different. When it's powered on like this, it'll look different, etc. Okay, and I do want to go over the port selection for you guys. So right here, this is on the left side. On the left side, you have a exhaust vent with a heat sink. There's a USB Type A port. There is a mic and a headset jack. Okay, on the back, we have two exhaust vents with two heat sinks. There is a USB Type C port here that does do display out. There is a HDMI 2.1 port right here. There's a 2.5 gigabit LAN port, and because the device is so slim, it has this little mouth that opens up to allow you to plug the cable in, and it has a barrel power port. Okay. Now, on the right side, there is a micro SD card slot. Make sure you can see it. Okay. There's a micro SD card slot, a USB Type A, another USB Type A, and a exhaust vent with a heatsink. Okay. On the front, there is an indenture, a very wide indenture here, so you can put your finger in and lift it up. And right underneath it is some like a mesh here where there's holes, machined in. And this is the light bar. It comes all the way across right here. That's where the light bar is, okay? And that's the ports. All right, we're going to get into some gaming so you can kind of see how this handles. As you can hear, the fan speeds has ramped up. I have it on the gaming profile, not the turbo. And right now, the GPU temperature is at 85 degrees Celsius. All right, so currently right now we're at 140 watts is the amount of power being pulled in. We're at 86 degrees, 87 degrees, 86 degrees Celsius, 98% GPU utilization, 41 to 46% CPU utilization, which is dropping between 32 and 46. We're getting about 100 frames per second, depending on the scene. Right now, we had 102 frames, 100 frames. Then we jumped down to about 92 frames. But this is with everything on Ultra at 2K resolution. As you can see, it handles this no problem. Okay. And you can hear, again, the fans. Now, another thing to note, the speakers is definitely not the greatest on here. It's a sound for a pinch, but I prefer you to get some headphones or maybe some portable laptop speakers to go along with this. But the speakers lack bass, and the treble is, you know, it's pretty meh, right? It's slightly below average. Again, I definitely will not rely on these speakers if you really need the sound. All right, and let me get one more kill and I'll end this. Now, while this is going on, what I'm going to show you is from the control center. All right, I'll show you from the control center. So control center show me that the CPU temps is at 80 degrees, the usage is at 52%, GPU is at 98% usage with 86 degrees temps, the memory is at 39%, the SSD is at 39 degrees, which I never had no problem with. The fan speed, as you can see, 70% on the CPU, 90% on the GPU. And what you're not seeing, which will come from HW Monitor, which I didn't launch while doing this, but you'll see that the RAM that's right here, right below the space bar and right above the trackpad, the RAM gets to about 80 degrees Celsius while gaming. That is extremely hot, and for me, concerning. I will put a good cooling pad underneath this to blow some more air through there to try and cool down that RAM, because over time, I'm sure that's going to wear out the RAM, and even the same thing with this. But again, you can adjust the fan speed. You can create a nice little fan curve and deal with it from there. All right, so let me get this last kill. All right, and that is it for gaming. This is Halo Infinite. Whoops. All right, the fans are cooling down, or the system's cooling down, fans are slowing down. And that's it for my review of this device. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to give you some takeaways. Again, the cons, the webcam quality is terrible. The lid is a little bit wobbly, right? It's not a deal breaker, but it does wobble, right? So my recommendation is to keep it on a desk or something hard, or if you want to use it on your lap, make sure you're using, I would say, a laptop tray with it. The key depth is very shallow. I don't know what that depth is. It feels like it's maybe 1.2 millimeters, but I can't confirm that. It's not a lot of documentation online about this device, so I'm not sure. The main deal breaker for me is the fans. Man, when they're idle and they're spinning up, the whirring sound of the fan is on some high-pitched frequency that bores into my brain, and if everything is quiet, you will hear it. You will notice it if you're very sensitive to that type of stuff. Some people may have a higher tolerance, so it may not be a deal breaker for you. I would say get it and try it, but that's one of the reasons why I'm not keeping it. The RAM, the DIMM slots do get very hot. I'm not sure if anything is soldered onto the board. I did not open it up. Mainly because I'm not keeping it. That's why you still see the plastic on it, because I haven't decided to keep it. If I was to keep it, I would take the plastic off. I would open it up and give you guys a peer in, but I'm not keeping it, so I'm returning it. The GPU does do some throttling at times. In that gaming video that you guys watched, there was no throttling there, which was good. And again, it doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. My suggestion, stay away from that turbo mode, because everything gets hotter. And even though the fans do spin up, it pumps more voltage. It tries to give a semi-overclock to the device that I feel is unnecessary and just makes the device a little bit more hotter and unstable, which you don't need to do. The good thing is that I do like is the node application, where you can tweak the fan curve. You can also make other customization adjustments. There's a 4-zone RGB keyboard. The CPU in it is great. It has a muck switch. So that way the GPU can communicate directly with the monitor, skipping over the integrated GPU. Has the 3070 Ti, which works beautifully, as you can see, while gaming. I had it on 2K, everything on Ultra, and it was flowing about 90 to 100 frames per second, which I think is phenomenal for me, at least, playing Halo Infinite. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM that it comes with. It also has Samsung RAM and a Samsung SSD, which is very high quality. It has great battery life if you tweak it based on my recommendations. Bring the brightness under 50%, turn the backlit keyboard off, turn the light bar off on the front. put it on quiet mode, deactivate the muck switch, etc., and make other tweaks. You can make other tweaks. You can undervolt it and do other things to it, and you can actually get up to 8 hours of battery life in this device, which is phenomenal. It is thin and light. It's only 5 pounds, and it's very thin. I think it's 0.66 inches in height, which is 6-7 inches of height, which is phenomenal. If I'm not mistaken, well, I think it's 0.78 inches. I think it's 0.78 inches as far as height is concerned. So it's thin for a 17.3-inch desktop replacement, which I think is great. Has a 2.5 gigabit per second LAN port, which I think is awesome. The Intel Wi-Fi adapter is phenomenal. It's no disconnected. It connects immediately. It holds a connection, and the throughput is awesome. I do like this overdrive button so that you don't have to go in and configure anything software-wise. You can just press this button here, and it will tweak between quiet, gaming, and turbo modes, which I think is awesome. It does pull up to 155 watts in firm arc when you stress it, so it can pull down, the GPU can pull down 155 watts, which is great. Also, it does up to 150 watts while gaming, and I think that's awesome as well. The CPU can get over 45 watts. I think it, from my testing, I think max it went up to 68 watts when just doing CPU intensive, but for the most part, it averages around 45 watts if you put in at least more than 50% load on the device. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. I'm trying to tweak and streamline and make my reviews better, more coherent, more cohesive, and more streamlined, right? So I actually prepared for this one and just do it off the whim. So hopefully you guys enjoy that format. If so, let me know in the comments below. I'll go ahead and do that going forward, so that way we have more high quality content on this channel. All right. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you enjoy it. Make sure you share this video everywhere. Okay. So we can get to the top of the YouTube charts via the algorithm. And if you guys enjoy it, make sure you hit subscribe, hit that bell notification so you can see when we go live again and when we premiere a video or when the next upload comes to your YouTube screens. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.